Georgia corrected their biggest problem on offense from last season. And no, they didn't fire Mike Bobo. But with the fixes that Kirby Smart has made this offseason, is going to help Mike Bobo have an easier time calling plays in 2025 than what he did last year. You can only be so good as a play caller when you have defensive backs playing wide receiver, which it felt like Georgia did with the amount of drops they had. Arian Smith, Dominic Lovett, Kirby Smart might as well have those guys playing in the secondary with how they just had butterfingers for hands. You had a receiving core that just was unable to find any way to come down with big-time catches in the most crucial moments. You led the nation in drop passes. You also weren't that dynamic either at the wide receiver position. Kirby Smart has fixed that. You bring in Zachariah from USC. He has world-class speed. He's just as fast as what Tyreek Hill is allegedly. And with his game-breaking speed, he has the ability to just take over games. He has a DeAnthony Thomas, Tavon Austin kind of skill set. Georgia hasn't had a receiver as talented as what Zachariah Branch is in a very long time. And despite what USC fans may tell you, he was underutilized during his time with the Trojans. I don't feel like Lincoln Riley did a good job of putting him in the best position for his skill set to really take over. You also get Noah Thomas out of the transfer portal from Texas A&M. He was their best receiver last year. He led them in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. He's a big body guy. He's 6'6", 200 pounds. He moves freakishly well for a guy of his size. I'm not saying he's Mike Evans, but he does have a lot of flashes of George Pickens in his game without the character red flags. And Kirby Smart, I don't know if you realize this, he has this weird obsession with these big body wide receivers. You don't really see too many small, shifty slot guys on this team. So Zachariah Branch is kind of a little bit different of a receiver than what we normally see Kirby Smart go after. So that's a sign that Kirby Smart is kind of somewhat shifting his philosophy on offense. Now, what about some of the key returning receivers that Georgia has coming back? Because I don't feel like Zachariah Branch and Noah Thomas are going to be the sole reason for why this wide receiver position improves this year. Dillon Bell comes back. Colbie Young returns as well. Look, I get it that Dillon Bell was responsible for a good amount of drops as well. Of course, we can't forget that big drop that he had in the second half against Notre Dame. But Dillon Bell, I expect him to improve. He had moments where he was really good. Against Alabama, he was going off. 4 catches. He had a 67-yard reception. He finished the game for 100 receiving yards and a touchdown. He should be much better this year. Drops are something that you can improve within the course of an off season. All you got to do is hit that junk machine. You mean to tell me that Dillon Bell, if Kirby Smart makes him stay out to practice and catch 250 balls off that jug machine, he won't have much better hands? Come on now. Let's be reasonable. Let's not just be Debbie Downers about Georgia's receivers. You know what they love to say? Not all returning production is good production. Look, Dillon Bell showed a lot of glimpses of what he could be. His only issue is he can't catch. You can improve that. Colbie Young, I loved watching him play for Miami. I'm a Miami fan. I was hurt when he left, and I was expecting him to have a huge contribution to Georgia's offense in 2024, but apparently he had some legal issues off the field that held him back, and eventually when he got that settled, he was just so behind on the depth chart. It was just impossible for him to get involved. This year, though, I like him to have a big season for the Bulldogs. Big body receiver, pretty explosive. Yeah, he may not be that good after the catch, but he's another athletic, big body wide receiver that Kirby Smart is just obsessed with. For as many questions as what we may have about Gunnar Stockton, you can only be so good when your receivers have rigs for hands like what they had last year. This year, with the improved receiving core, Georgia's going to be right back in the mix to win the SEC championship and to win it all. And if the receivers knew how to catch the damn ball last year, they would have three-peated. They would have beat Notre Dame. They would have went on to the semifinals. They would have smoked Penn State, and they would have been one of the few teams, I don't know few teams, but they could have been the first team in the history of college football to ever pull off the illustrious three-peat. They were a good wide receiving core away from winning it all for a third straight year. To me, 2024 was Kirby Smart's best year as a head coach. He had a similar performance coaching to what we saw Nick Saban have his final year at Alabama. Do you not know how difficult it is to win when your wide receivers just can't catch a dime? And then on top of that, you got offensive line issues, quarterback inconsistency, your defense wasn't playing up to standard. This wide receiving core that Kirby Smart has revamped, bringing in Zachariah Branch, Noah Thomas, with Dillon Bell and Colbie Young coming back, they're going to be a major part of Georgia having once again another great season and being in the forefront of the national title conversation. This team doesn't rebuild, they reload. This is a football factory.